Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Wednesday, July 30th, the epicenter of a very, very busy broadcast week, and we have a big show for you today. The roots of technocracy exposed, dark enlightenment, the game be techno-beast, and featuring top experts, Patrick Wood, Courtenay Turner, and Joe Allen. Courtenay and Joe, both new guests on the Shannon Joy Show. This is a live show, 3 guests. It's going to be a lot of information, and it's an incredibly important conversation. The technocratic era has now been set in motion, ushered in over the past 6 months by the Trump administration. This has the potential, as you all know, to change everything about American life and what it means to be a thinking, rational human. The scope of the rollout is breathtaking. The plan was set in place decades ago. They've captured both political parties and most of our mainstream corporate and educational institutions, and few really understand the impact. And if they do understand the impact, way too few in conservative media will target President Trump and his complicity in the rollout of this technocracy, which is the topic that we're going to hit in the first segment. Today, we're going to take a deep dive in all of this with 3 of the foremost experts in the world on this topic. As I mentioned, Patrick Wood, Courtenay Turner, and Joe Allen. Patrick and Courtenay will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. I've invited Joe to stick around for that interview. The last hour will be on all of the elements of the technocracy and the breathtaking rollout of legislation, executive orders, and now potentially a new executive order to open up every American's 401k to shady private equity and cryptocurrencies, all at the hands of Donald Trump. So this all happened in July, literally in just the span of a few weeks, and basically crickets from conservative media. And this is where we're going to start this discussion today. Joe Allen, again, new guest on the Shannon Joy Show, called us out here on the show for calling out people like Steve Bannon and Glenn Beck and Ben Shapiro. You guys all saw the clip that went semi-viral over the weekend, 100,000 views at this point, and sparked a major discussion about the lack of scrutiny on Donald Trump. My position, Donald Trump is the Trojan horse for the technocrats, far worse than anything we could have ever gotten from a Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. And the lack of scrutiny from conservative media, in my opinion, is hampering our ability to resist this and stop it dead in its tracks. This is the video that went semi-viral. Joe Allen, who is a regular contributor on Steve Bannon in the War Room, had some issues with it. And so I invited him here on the show for a healthy discourse about that. Annie, let's roll that tape first. We'll bring Joe in right after, and we'll get right into the debate right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Let's go. January 23, 2025, Trump signs the executive order removing all AI barriers. July 18, 2025, the Genius Act is signed into law. July 23, AI.gov goes live and AI action plan is released. Have you seen any of this on Steve Bannon's War Room? Have you seen any of this on Glenn Beck's chalkboard? Have you seen any of this on your favorite right-wing news radio or commentator? Have you seen this on The Blaze? Have you seen this on Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro? Have you seen any type of in-depth analysis from the right? None whatsoever. Exactly what they wanted to happen happened. Their guy got into office. Their guy was a Trojan horse for the technocrats. And now the right-wing media apparatus is looking away as this is happening again. The same thing that they did during the lockdowns of 2020 and the rollout of Operation Warp Speed. It is the exact same playbook. Groundhog Day political hell. Why am I the only one in right-wing news media, the only one in right-wing news media talking about this days after it happened? It is time for you to begin to challenge these people who are leading this nation, their constituents, their audiences off a cliff. Off a cliff. All right, that was the clip, and our new friend, new guest, Joe Allen, had something to say about it. He tweeted out, "Can someone set this girl straight? We have been covering this on Steve Bannon. I have been covering this on The War Room." He is the author of he's a expert in technocracy, and had, like I said, something to say about my position. So I figured I'd invite him on here to set me straight, right to my face. Joe Allen, you're such a great sport. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Appreciate you coming in. His website is joebot.xyz. You can follow him on Twitter at joebotxyz. As I mentioned, regular contributor on Steve Bannon's War Room. Thanks for being with us. And yeah, I'll give you the floor. I had my opening remarks, and we saw the video that irritated some on conservative right. I want to give you the opportunity to respond.
Well, Shannon, thank you very much for having me. I would have just wished you had just checked at our site before you had said that. We were covering it for the 2 days prior, and during Trump's speech, Steve had to leave, and I was left to react solo. As you know, reacting solo into the camera is a daunting task, even after 4 years of becoming a cyborg. So maybe I wasn't sufficiently hysterical. I don't know. But so I think that, having talked to you yesterday and gotten a bit more familiar with your work, I think that we certainly align on most of these issues, at least the technological problem in total. But there are different approaches to how to deal with this. The way I see the problem itself, looking at artificial intelligence solely, because that was really the impetus behind the AI action plan and all that's really focused on AI and not the downstream technologies. So looking at AI alone, the first really big problem that it poses to the public, and it's one that's been with us for decades and only increasing, is mass surveillance and the weaponization of AI, whether that be for deep fakes and social disruption, or whether we're talking about drone systems and actual missile systems that are powered by advanced algorithms. The second is this idea of human replacement, which you hear all the time from the heads of the frontier companies and many of the startups, and certainly the kind of transhumanist and post-humanist ideologues who discuss this. Total human replacement. Some are more conservative. They say, no, it'll just partially replace humans. Some try to spin it as, no, humans will just become cyborgized in advance. But ultimately, what they're talking about is replacing what we know as human, and in essence, in my estimation, atrophying what is human, our intellect, our social relationships, our political power, all of that. The third is a little bit more esoteric, and I'll just kind of put a pin in it, but it's the AI mythology, the idea that we're generating, or that they, more accurately, are creating some kind of digital god, that they're going to create artificial general intelligence and then super intelligence, and that will in essence be the apex predator, or as it's been said, the apex parasite over all of us. So how do you deal with it? People have asked me this all the time, because a lot of my time is spent just simply criticizing the system. And I must admit, I'm pretty short on solutions, but the path forward in my analysis, as best as I can see it, is basically fivefold. The most immediate power that we have at our disposal is personal choice. Each of us can choose to become part of this system. We can send our souls into Rumble and XAI or not. We can use digital currency or not, for the most part. You can use AI or not. But personal choice, I think, is the core of the solution. Beyond that, though, because no person is going to be able to take on a system of this magnitude, you need communal norms, local communal norms, whether this be your church or your social groups, or how you conduct yourself in the world with your fellow people. trying to find some consensus. Just for an example, we are not going to let our children use smartphones. This has become extremely popular, and I think a very good sign that that all is not lost. So you got personal choice, communal norms, but then you have the institutional policies. And so when you're looking at schools, you're looking at corporations, you're looking at the government, what you see is a massive push to use artificial intelligence at every level, whether it's giving students bots to teach them or giving workers bots that they are forced to use and defer to in their decision making. Or in the federal government, what we're seeing more and more is that very thing coupled with the vast the data fusion that you see, for instance, with Palantir fusing identities across different agencies. Now, the fourth, and I think this is probably where we would disagree the most, is the political option. How can you pass laws to slow down, stop, or at least control the development of these technologies? And how do you protect people from the worst outcomes of these technologies? And that political process is messy. That political process is full of corruption and moneyed interest. A lot of what we see, especially with the AI action plan, is being driven by AI accelerationists. And I'm completely against that influence from that camp on the Trump administration. But you have the municipal options. You have the state options, thanks to the repeal of the proposed AI moratorium, at least for now. And there are also federal options. And I'll just close with this. Some are completely disillusioned with Trump and, big tent conservatism. And I get it. I've never really been a political person, and I'm not enthusiastic about any of this. But I do think Steve Bannon has worked for years to push all sorts of American policies through into the Trump administration. As he describes it, Trump is a vehicle for the heartland. Trump is an instrument, a weapon. And so to the extent Trump could be used against these tech companies, we certainly hope that will happen. Unfortunately, disappointingly, at present, that's not happening. And I think that's a lot of the disillusionment you feel. I'm, again, a fairly apolitical person, but at least this is all I'm going to speak for Steve Bannon. But Steve Bannon is confident that he can, in fact, put that influence on Trump and the administration to perhaps divert this in another direction. As I say, right now, not looking good.
Thanks so much, Joe. And I think a lot of your analysis is spot on. I agree with you 100%. The area that we disagree is the area that involves Donald Trump. Steve Bannon sees him as a vehicle or a weapon to stop this. I see Donald Trump as the Trojan horse to usher it in. And the longer we give Donald Trump rope and time and hope and prayers that he's somehow going to wake up and figure this out and disentangle himself from the likes of Lutnick and Thiel and Vance and Musk, I think is a pipe dream. I think we have 10 years of history looking at Donald Trump in terms of promises that are broken and never, ever, ever made good on. We also see the entrance of some of the worst totalitarian dystopian policies that we've seen in the history of this country. It was Donald Trump that gave us the lockdowns of 2020, 2 weeks to stop the spread, which turned into 2 years of absolute hell. It was Donald Trump that rolled out Operation Warp Speed, which created the vaccine that poisoned and killed millions of Americans. Donald Trump still has no remorse, no discussion about that. If right-wing media, including Bannon and Alex Jones and Glenn Beck and Ben Shapiro, had anything to say about the lockdowns and the reality of forced and coerced vaccination, if they had even made a peep about Operation Warp Speed, we might not have the disaster that we're facing today. And so I see where we are right now. The past 6 months have been absolutely breathtaking. When you start with the emergency declaration on energy, which is now paving the way for massive Manhattan-sized data centers across the United States of America, run by Mark Zuckerberg, that was Donald Trump who signed that emergency declaration. When you look at the Musk coup de Doge, where Trump opened up the federal government 4 or 5 weekends in a row for Elon Musk to walk in and suck up trillions of dollars potentially of absolutely valuable American data, That was Donald Trump. He did that. When you look at the big, beautiful bill, the big betrayal bill, and how that shackled the states for 10 years. So there is no state resistance. There is no local resistance to any type of AI development. And that is the bill that Donald Trump is championing. When you look at the Stable Act, the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, three pieces of legislation that further secure the technocracy, the governmental aspect of the technocracy, no longer a democracy, no longer a republic. We are ruled by the technocrats. That was Donald Trump. He signed those bills. When you look at the executive orders, the AI action plan that he just rolled out, 3 executive orders last week, the AI action plan, which you covered very well. I appreciate the information on this. And now, as I mentioned, the executive order to open up 401ks to cryptocurrencies, a complete reset of our currency system with stable coins and all of the surveillance. All of this is Donald Trump. You cannot remove the analysis. And so when Steve Bannon talks about the technocracy or talks about the, Elon Musk or the technocrats or AI or transhumanism and omits Donald Trump from the analysis, that completely obliterates his analysis because he's missing the most critical component. Peter Thiel and the technocrats went in and dumped hundreds of millions of dollars to get Donald Trump elected. He is now returning the favor. Elon Musk has $1 trillion in critical data. Palantir is up 65% in the past 6 months, becoming the most powerful corporation on the face of the planet with the amount of data that they are accruing under this president. So from my perspective, any conservative who is going to fearmonger about the technocracy, but not speak up when it matters, right? In the past 3 weeks, in the past 3 months, when we could have stopped these things because they're too afraid to scrutinize Trump because he'll hammer them or he'll yell at them. This fear in conservative media, in my opinion, is destroying this nation. In my opinion, it's time that they wake up. I'll give you the floor.
I hear you. Look, the outward-facing strategy is perhaps deceiving in regards to the hours and hours and hours every day of work going on behind the scenes. And I understand completely the complaint that you have. The one issue, for instance, Operation Warp Speed, the rollout of the vax, Bannon and the War Room were solid on that completely. You look at, say, the presence of Naomi Wolf. Naomi Wolf, very much a liberal, very much a Democrat, very much in disagreement with so many different areas and topics with Steve. And yet Steve brings her on consistently and keeps her on because the War Room is a carousel of a lot of different views. So
I love Naomi. I love Steve. But if you're omitting Trump from culpability of poisoning and killing millions of Americans, and we're playing this game, well, we're going to wait. We're going to trust the plan. He's playing 5-dimensional.
Well, we are not plan trusters. I am certainly no plan truster. In fact, if I can give you any sort of insight as to how this is all moving forward, there's not even a whole lot of little p plans. So it's fairly chaotic. I'll say this as well, as far as the possibility of veering this, because if you look at if you want to completely disconnect from these systems, right? You want to be completely outside of them and not participate, not give them power, not give them energy, and certainly not give them praise. I mean, it really, realistically, we're talking about like a mass rejection of these technologies, which I personally would be fine with. If you and I could today call for millions or tens of millions or 100 million Americans to break their smartphones, to never log on to X ever again, never go to Rumble ever again, to consume their media in the old-fashioned way, I honestly think it would probably be a better world. But at the present, this is not realistic. You're kind of stuck inside these systems. We have 3.5 years. We have 3.5 years left of the Trump administration. If there's any hope at all to steer Trump in the direction towards humanity and away from the machine, we're going to take it as long as possible.
How on earth do you plan to steer Trump away from this when he is completely funded by Peter Thiel? His entire presidency is dependent upon the technocrats. And
I think there's a big difference between dependency and influence, a tremendous amount of influence. Tremendous. You saw what happened with Musk. You saw how easily Musk was able to slide in with money, with the engine, the kind of mind control engine that is X.com. You saw how his personality is such that he somehow, even with all his weirdness, was able to basically hypnotize a vast, vast majority of the MAGA movement and the conservative movement. Not everyone, absolutely not everyone, but for a moment, it was pretty terrifying how easily he could hypnotize them. And yet, Trump and Elon Musk are now absolutely on the outs. It's not some kind of show.
I don't believe that for a second.
Well, maybe you have some inside baseball. Maybe you have some inside baseball I'm missing out on. But no, that is absolutely a legitimate break, at least in regards to their sort of partnership politically. It's not. I mean, I can understand how from the outside it must look like a pro wrestling match, but I think it's much more of a circus. And in this circus, there are gladiatorial arenas and the blood is real. The fights oftentimes are very real. If there's one thing that I've learned from seeing how the sausage is made in media and in politics, it's that it's not as bad as it looks, and it's far, far worse than it seems. What the outward display doesn't necessarily represent what is happening on the inside, but absolutely the break between Trump and Musk, what it shows is this is not just one monolithic system with one dark-robed emperor pulling all the strings. These are a lot of different people, very human people, very fallible people, and very impetuous people. And in that system of impetuous humans, it's possible to steer it. It's possible you'll fail, but you have to keep trying to steer it. Or at least we do, but you don't have to.
Sometimes you have to rip the Band-Aid off and acknowledge that the guy is not on your team. He's just not that into you. And Trump isn't working for the little guys, and he's not laying awake at night worrying about your 401k or your family. Trump is taking the money, honey. He took the money from his backers. Now he's making good. I think that is the most, I mean, I think quite frankly, it is quite naive, and not to disrespect you, but when I look at grown-ass men, conservative commentators who are hoping and praying that Trump is magically going to all of a sudden wake up to any of this and do the right thing, I think that we have 10 years of discernible policy outcome. We have broken promise after broken promise. He said he was going to repeal Obamacare, never happened. Said he was going to defund Planned Parenthood, never happened. Said he was going to build the wall, never happened. Said he was going to balance the budget, reduce the debt, drain the swamp. None of it happened. Donald Trump's debt and deficit dwarfed even that of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. He said he was going to put Hillary in jail. He never did it. Said he was going to release the Epstein files. He never did it. Said he was going to, once again, usher America into the golden age. It's one rug pull after another after another. And this is the reality of the situation that we are in. And I think it is honestly the fault of conservative media as a whole for not alerting their audiences to what is actually going on. This rolling in of the technocracy is breathtaking. It is a game changer. What he has already done is devastating. And in my opinion, it is now time to call him out, not be afraid to do it. I know that your, audiences are going to get mad at you and you're afraid.
Well, I can say with full confidence that the audience is mad at me all the time. That's not really my concern.
Me too. Over the past 12 years, as a woman who has been solidly opposed to Donald Trump from the day he came down the escalator, I had his number from day one. I've been thrown off multiple platforms. I've lost producers. I've lost half my audience about 3 times because of this. So believe me, the path that I have chosen is not the easy path. But I will say to those in Con Inc. and conservative Inc. out there is a way for you to begin to look at the truth and criticize Trump and critique Trump, because honestly, that's the only move forward. I don't believe there are any solutions in Washington, D.C. I think this 2-party political paradigm, they are 2 sides of the same coin. I think Trump is an actor. I think he has duped everyone. He's an utter con man. And the faster we figure that out, the faster we can have any hope of gaining our country back. From the bottom up, I agree with your policy prescriptions. I agree, it's personal choice. It is the community norms in our local communities. It's the institutional policies in our schools, right? It's localism. It's resisting at that local level. Everything that Trump has done has crushed those opportunities. We don't have personal choice about these things because of because of what he is putting in place right now. So I say, let's Let's stop focusing on the circus, as you mentioned, that is Donald Trump, and let's focus on utter full-scale resistance from the bottom up, from the state level, within the culture. But that starts with acknowledging what is right in front of our faces. And in my opinion, it's Trump as a complete Trojan horse and a traitor.
You know, the Trojan horse, I get why you say that, but this is a Trojan horse with the Greeks riding on top of it out in the open. I mean, this is one reason you talk about an audience being mad. You talk about an audience being angry throughout the campaign. And I voted for Trump, right? But throughout the campaign, especially as Steve is in prison, it was left to me to cover this however I could possibly communicate this to the posse. And it is a mixed bag. I personally think that under Harris, it would be worse. That's why I voted for Trump. I personally think that we are securing the border. And I think that if they would just go after the employers rather than the immigrants.
For every American. Joe, let me pause.
Let me just say this. Let me just.
The border with Nikki Haley and every airport screen.
Let me say this.
Digital ID.
Hang on. Calm down. So, I think that certain things are going in our direction. Even under the lockdowns and the vax mandates, that was left up to states, that was left up to corporations. So my position on the entire kind of political spectrum, what you're describing, this two-party system, the elections, which are hardly secure and hardly reliable, all of these problems in politics, the endless false promises or broken promises or outright lies, to me, that's politics. It shouldn't be in a perfect world, but from the moment I became politically aware as a kid, it came with a kind of disillusionment. It came with a kind of cynicism that these people are liars. That's what politicians do. I'm not saying you have to accept it. I am saying that that's the system that we're dealing with, and there's two different ways of going at it. You can go at it from outside, you can go at it from within. I would put myself somewhere in the middle, but it's a matter certainly of how do you resist, and I would never discourage you from ginning up local and state level resistance, but I do think it's important to look at the possibility that this could be controlled from within the federal government to some extent, at least mitigated.
All right. The number one impediment for getting anyone to do anything from the local level, especially on the right, is Donald Trump. There's a false sense of security. They have been anesthetized to his betrayals. They have been convinced to trust a plan by QAnon and all of those entities. And so they, the worst aspects of totalitarianism are ushered into this country through Trump. If Biden or Kamala tried to do what Trump has done in the past 6 months, we would have been raging against it. You would have had conservatives from every corner of this country raging against that. But when Trump does it, they let him go. And I fault conservative media for that. And that's why I call them Con Inc. Because you cannot call yourself a journalist. You cannot call yourself an independent commentator or analyst when you are carrying water for a politician. And they have been carrying water and defending this politician for the past 10 years. And I think it's half the reason that we are in this position today. It's impossible to get to the truth because they are so enamored and so in the tank for a political, entity that has betrayed them over and over. And I think it's very destructive. Joe Allen.
I absolutely would not encourage any sort of cult-like.
They do. It's a cult.
Totally. As does the left. I mean, human beings are human beings. And if you can find a human being that's independent of a cult, I think you're doing pretty well,
Joe, coming out now and shaming everyone in conservative media and his audience for caring about the Epstein files. The same
and I'm completely appalled and against all of that. I think it is not only just a fumble, it's a disgusting sort of deflection. We'll see what happens. I hope for the best, but I am not, let's just say I'm not putting all my hope.
It sounds like an abusive relationship.
Listen, I don't know how much influence I can put on any of these issues, but I do see that on the one issue that I've dedicated the last 4.5 years, 5 years now of my life to, technology and its damaging effects, its downsides. The Biden administration was horrible. The Trump administration is horrible. And so was Obama's administration. If you want to talk about, and I'm not trying to do a whataboutism. What I am saying is, from Bush forward, the problems of surveillance and weaponized technology, the problems of replacement, at that time, mass immigration and human atrophy, and you could see the seeds of it, especially flowering with Obama. The problem of this mythology of technology being this solution to what are otherwise human and spiritual problems. It has only grown, and I would agree 100% on this one issue. It has gotten worse under Trump. It got worse in 2016. It got worse in 2020 under Biden. It is now getting worse in the last 7 months. We have almost 3.5 years of this. We're going to have to figure something out. If detaching and not participating is the answer for you, I get it. I understand the disillusionment.
Do not accuse me of non-participation.
I only mean as someone.
Local
I only mean participating. I'm not accusing you of that. I mean, if you don't want to participate as in a cooperation with those who are trying to steer the Trump agenda.
Journalists cooperate with politicians.
You don't have to. You don't. And so I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to. In fact, I think it's great that you're holding feet to fire. Somebody's got to do it, right? And we are doing it while still supporting and trying to steer the Trump administration in a positive direction on this. Look at Netanyahu.
We got to go. It's great. This is a good discussion. But we do have some of our other guests in the Joy Virtual. You're great, Joe. I appreciate you. I appreciate the discourse. I have Annie, some in the live chat are saying that my mic is muffled. Not sure if that's the case, but we are going to go to break. When we come back, Joe, would love to keep you on. If you'd like to join us, we have Courtenay Turner coming on. We're going to give her the floor. Also, Patrick Wood, two of the foremost experts on technocracy. I think they might have something to say about your position as well. So I think for the next hour, you're welcome to stay with us. We'll see if we can get you in for a little bit more commentary. But it has been a great discussion. So yes, if you want to stick on, that would be great. And we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, Patrick Wood, Courtenay Turner, continuing this discussion on the technocracy, the new political ideology that I believe has taken over our government and both political parties. I know that Courtenay is going to have to have something to say about that, about the left-hand, right-hand techniques that they use, those technocrats, to infiltrate both political parties and movements. We'll be back in a moment right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Our friends over at Native Path. Hey, you guys know that my morning routine, one of the ways I stay healthy, almost 50 years old. I can't believe that I am almost halfway through a natural life. And one of the ways that I maintain a pain-free lifestyle and great hair, nails, and skin. Also, it's just a great way to restore collagen. You guys know it is my favorite, Native Path collagen. Every single morning in my coffee, it is a must. I use Native Path collagen. Devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy uses Native Path collagen for his joint pain. It has helped him in so many ways. And I believe every person over the age of 40 should be implementing collagen into their diet on a regular basis. Reduces inflammation. There are so many good outcomes from that daily use of collagen. And Native Path collagen is the best on the market. It dissolves instantly. It has absolutely no taste. It is protein. It's beef derived, and it is absolutely clean. The best part, it is the best price point that you will find on collagen anywhere in the market. You won't find these price points at the drugstore. You won't find these price points at your discount grocery center. It is the best collagen for the best price, and you can only get it at getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. That's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. Use that joy promo code for an additional 45% off. It's the only way you're going to get that stock up sale price. And I just recommend it. I've been using collagen for years. People ask me, how do you stay so young and vibrant, Shannon? And one of my secrets is, of course, Native Path collagen. You guys know that one of our amazing sponsors is Colonial Metals Group. We could not bring this show to you, this expansion, this studio, the ability to bring Annie in to produce the show. This is all because of some of our key sponsorships. And Colonial Metals Group has been a partner with the Shannon Joy Show. They have helped so many of you begin your gold and silver journey, whether it's through the purchase of physical gold and silver or through an independent IRA backed by gold and silver. They can do transfers. They can take a 401k and transfer a portion of that or the entire thing into an individual IRA backed by gold and silver that you direct, right? So you have all the control over it. It is much faster and much easier than I ever imagined. It took less than a couple days for me to get mine set up, and they are standing by. They are ready to talk to all of you about how you can begin to protect your retirement. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Please use that URL. Make sure that you tell them that Shannon Joy sent you. Blackout, brownout, natural disaster, alien invasion, government created disaster, you name it. If you are prepared, then you will not be afraid. And it is only when we are afraid that we are vulnerable to the manipulation and the coercion of this hostile government. And so one of the things that I encourage to this audience and for this audience is to be prepared. Satellite Phone Store has everything you need, from solar panels to generators to Faraday technologies that will protect your devices from a potential EMP attack and also protect you from EMF radiation from the 5G, the 4G, the 3G, and all of the Gs, right? They have everything you need for communication, so many different satellite phone packages for all of your needs. They have great monthly plans. And if you use the promo code JOY, you will get 10% off your annual fee and a free satellite phone. So go to sat123.com/joy today. That is sat123.com/joy today. Use that promo code JOY for all of your purchases. It's always going to get you that nice, robust 10% off. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. In just a minute, we're going to be bringing into the Joy Virtual Studio Courtenay Turner, a new guest on the Shannon Joy Show. She is an expert on the Technocracy and, of course, the OG, the original gangster, Patrick Wood. He is the founder of Technocracy.news, probably the world's foremost expert on technocracy. There is so much to cover, precisely because of the breathtaking pace of the implementation of the technocracy over the past 6 months via the Trump administration. We're keeping Joe Allen on with us. We'll bring him back in maybe in the next half hour or so for a little bit more commentary and maybe some discourse. I thought that first segment was very interesting. But first, I do want to thank one of our sponsors. We love the folks over at Native Path. As you know, my morning routine is everything to me. Every morning I hydrate with Native Path Hydrate, and right after the hydration, the collagen goes in the coffee every single morning. Collagen is something that everyone over the age of 45 should start considering, because as we age, our bodies produce less collagen. That can impact our joint, our muscles, our hair, our nails, our skin. It is the reduction in the production of collagen that kind of makes you look old. So collagen is one of my beauty secrets. Devastatingly Handsome Dr. Joy, he uses it to tackle his joint pain, and it's the best on the market. Absolutely flavorless. It dissolves instantly, no clumps, no mess. It is 100% grass-fed beef beef collagen, and it is delicious. Native Path always has the best price point, and right now, 45% off for the Joy audience. Go to getnativepathcollagen.com. That is getnativepathcollagen.com for the exclusive 45% off stock up sale. I have not found a better product at a better price point than Native Path's collagen. It beats Walmart, it beats BJ's, anything you can get online. It just gets the job done, which is why I love it and why I use it every morning. Thank you to Native Path Collagen. Okay, without further ado, I want to welcome into the Joy Virtual Studio Courtenay Turner. and Patrick Wood. Great to see both of you. And Annie, you can take Joe down. I want to spend the next 20 to 30 minutes with Courtenay and Patrick, and then we'll bring Joe in for some commentary. But he got the first 30 minutes. I want to make sure we're giving them enough time as well. Courtenay, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. So glad that you are here. It's your first time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. And you guys, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Courtenay's work, it's excellent. You can follow her on X. Her handle is at Courtenay Turner, and she also has a podcast as well, an excellent podcast. Patrick Wood is with us. He is the founder of Technocracy.news, and as I mentioned, probably the world's foremost expert on the technocracy. He has been writing for decades on this topic. He knows it inside and out, and I have featured in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. If you want a crash course in technocracy and what is coming, there is a phenomenal documentary that he just released. It is linked to the show notes here on the Shannon Joy Show. The Agenda, Their Vision, Your Future. Patrick, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Glad you're with us today.
Nice to see you. You look really good today.
Okay. All right. Well, this is my first time ever having 4 people in the studio, but really appreciate you being here. And let's start with Courtenay. You wrote a piece, AI.gov, the digital Leviathan goes live. Last week, Patrick ran it on Technocracy.news. It was featured on your Substack, and it was a blockbuster. In fact, I spent an entire show going through that piece, word for word, essentially, because it so clearly laid out the agenda, the scope, what happened over the past 6 months, and the culpability of both parties, Donald Trump and the Democrat Party. And one of the areas that you are really great in terms of your analysis is the left hand, right hand messaging and infiltration that the technocracy have used to infiltrate both political parties, which is really interesting. So I want to give you the floor. You actually caught the tail end of some of the debate that I was having with Joe Allen about whether or not Trump is culpable for this. And, I'd like to get your thoughts on that and where you see us right now with the technocracy.
Well, I'll start with where I see us right now with the technocracy. I see us moving way faster than even I anticipated, and I did think that it was going to move quickly. So it's very concerning. I think that we need to push back now, because once this infrastructure is fully implemented, it's really, really hard to turn back from there, because the way AI works is it's recursive, right? So it's just going to keep building upon itself. So once those smart contracts are in place, I don't think there's all that much hope. So I think now is really the time to push back. As far as the left and right hand path, I would encourage people to read what I wrote on the Phoenix Conspiracy. That's what I call it. And the title was kind of inspired by Brett Weinstein had done a speech at Rescue the Republic. And it was very curious to me because he spent the last 5 minutes of this speech talking about how, he repeats the very famous question to Ben Franklin, what type of government is this? And of course, he replies, a republic, if you can keep it. And Britt says, well, it's a republic if we can phoenix it. And it wasn't, yeah, and it wasn't a throwaway line. Like, he went on to explain this for another 5 minutes. And he kept talking about the West, which I found kind of curious because it was Rescue the Republic. That's the title of the event, right? So the Republic is very specific. Certainly, the United States is a byproduct of Western civilization, but we are a constitutional republic. We are not the entire West, right? So It was very specific, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So it is this idea that we have to phoenix it. So if you, for those who aren't familiar with the symbol of the phoenix, right, it's a bird that rises up from the ashes. But what a lot of people miss is they have to burn it down first for the bird to rise up. And we've heard this kind of semiotics from, like the Biden administration. We have to build back better, right? They don't tell you we're going to tear it down first, or the Great Reset. We have to tear down the old system to build the new world order. So we see this theme recurring. And in this article, I talk about how they're doing this, and they're operating through the left and the right hand path. And I really see the technocracy in terms of the big movements philosophically, which is my background, is operating through this movement called Game B, which operates through the left-hand path, and then you have the Dark Enlightenment, which a lot more people are familiar with currently because they have such a strong influence on the Trump administration. And the left-hand path typically uses the archetypes of Divine Mother, so much more emotionally driven. They tend to be, we think of the left as the thinking with emotion rather than reason. They're very much involved in what I call the Gaia religion, right? It's all about the sustainable development goals of the UN. The right-hand path tends to operate through more of the patriarchal archetype. So more of that traditionalism, kind of muscularity that you see in the manosphere, or some of what I call the Theo bros in that article. And so you've got these two forces, these two factions, but it is dialectical. So they churn, right? So they're still driving towards the same telos, the same endpoint. And the analogy I would use is like you have a fork in the road, and one is beautiful tree-lined palm trees, the other one may be mountainous, but the end they converge, they go to the same place. So it's really which path do you want to take? And Game B is much more involved in what I call spiritual eugenics. So they're disciples of people like Barbara Marx Hubbard, Teilhard Chardin. They're much more theosophical in their framing, Neoplatonic, for those who are familiar with that reference. And the right-hand path tends to be much more autocratic. So on the left with Game B, they couch everything in words like they have their own jargon. It's like I need to make a glossary for them because they really have their own language. Things like omni-win, and they keep talking about decentralized. Everything's decentralized. They converge with people like Peter Thiel, who overlap both of them. And then certainly this concept of the network state. The network state was Balaji Srinivasan's book he wrote called The Network State, and it was inspired by Peter Thiel's concept of seasteading, which is very reminiscent of Ghislaine Maxwell's Terramar, for those who are familiar with that. But he put $1.7 million into the seasteading, which was these city-states on international waters, so they weren't subject to nation-state laws. And it didn't go very well, it didn't take off. So he then invested in Balaji Srinivasan's network states. And Balaji Srinivasan talks about how the network states are decentralized, but it's decentralized towards a re-centralized center. And I encourage people to remember that H.G. Wells talked about how you would have the decentralization of academic information institutions, so whether it be in academia or the media, these various spheres would be decentralized in order to be the conduit for the world brain. So it's just a different path. The left tends to give you more of this Fabian-style soft totalitarian, where you kind of opt into your own tyranny. They call it soft ethics. And the right-hand path tends to be, Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land. They're talking about SovCorps and GovCorp, which is what they're seeing in this.
Right. And so all of these roads, whether it's left or right, lead to the ideology or the governing structure of the 21st century, which is the dream of the technocrats, that it is mass surveillance, 24-hour surveillance, biosurveillance, physical surveillance, the capture of data, mass capture of data, and controlling each human, the way that we think, the way that we eat, the way that we live, whether we procreate, all of those things through these data centers and the operations that are run by technocrats, unelected, unaccountable, right? This is not a democracy. This is not a constitutional republic with a Bill of Rights. Like, this is something completely new. And that's, Patrick Wood, what I think most people do not understand is how dystopian this ideology is, right? It's not about technology. It is about technocracy, the ideology of the technocrat. And it is the most dystopian. Communism, socialism, fascism, they blush in the face, in my opinion, of technocracy. It is the most evil because it also implements essentially a war on humanity, right? The transhumanism and then ultimately machine control. So Patrick, I will now go to you over the past 6 months. Speaking of like the left hand, right hand, are you shocked? I mean, from my perspective, Joe Biden or Kamala Harris could never have gotten away with what Trump has gotten away with over the past 6 months. Can you go, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's my take on the whole thing. We've seen this thing constructed from the ground up. For instance, the concept of a new financial system at this point based on cryptocurrency. This has all been done since the inauguration. Basically, there was a run up to it for sure, but this was a new thing. You have to understand just how fast these technocrats can move. They can move basically at the speed of light. It seems, but they've accomplished so much in the last 6 months that it's just incredible. This reminds me of what Mark Zuckerberg said several years ago. He's an arch technocrat for sure. He said, "Move fast and break things. Unless you're breaking stuff, you're not moving fast enough." This is the whole mentality at this point of these technocrats in Washington, D.C. They're rushing in as fast as they can come in, and they're taking over healthcare at this point. There's just a meeting being converged right now on how to merge all of our healthcare data in one big lump. And you see Palantir has been selected to make sense of all the data flows that are coming out off the government right now.
Outrageous.
And this was all planned from the get-go, but it just all of a sudden just stunned the country. I don't think most people in the country they can't see what happened, but it's right here, right in front of our eyes.
One of the physical elements that is on the horizon that I do not think people understand, and Patrick, I'd like you to speak to this because you explain it very well. Mark Zuckerberg, speaking of Mark Zuckerberg, said just about a week ago that using government contracts and all of the things he's going to be building Manhattan-sized data centers, okay, to collect and store and process data like the size of Manhattan. This is one of thousands of projects that we are seeing jumpstarting within the Trump administration, funded by the taxpayers through things like Stargate. Can you talk to the audience about this physical manifestation, like what these data centers? I don't think people understand what is coming with these data centers and how intrusive they will be, not only in terms of our privacy and surveillance and the churning of data, but also just in our physical landscape across the country. Can you speak to that?
Wow, there's some. I think there's about 3,200 data centers being erected, already been erected across the country. This is a huge development. These data centers they're pouring money into it like over $1 trillion at this point this year. Some people are saying there's going to be a bubble at some point and the whole thing is going to completely blow up. That could happen. I wish it would. But they're pouring money nilly-willy. If you even speak data center, somebody's going to pipe up and say, "Oh, let's get one here for our town." And so they're getting sprinkled all over the country, and farmland and cities and neighborhoods. It doesn't matter, but they're a huge risk for our power grid for sure. Our power grid was already overstressed. Now it's doubly overstressed, and I'm sure rates will be going through the roof this year, next year, and we probably
for energy.
Yeah, possibly we could see blackouts or brownouts, and this has never happened in America before. At this point, these technocrats, they don't give a rip about us. That they have no concern for us at all as citizens of this country. So they're running roughshod over everything, not just us like out here in Phoenix and Tennessee or whatever, but they're running all over the government as well, and they're treating them with impunity, and they're insisting or demanding deregulation. Don't bother us. We're saving the world or saving the planet or whatever. Don't get on our back here. We'll just do what we say. Give us all the money we ask for. Clear the slate for regulations, you name it. And you see this antipathy between the technocrats and the political class in our country. This has never been, has not been visible before. I see it so clearly now.
Yes. Back to Courtenay Turner regarding what we just heard from Patrick and the impact of these data centers on American life. From your perspective, everything from the digital ID to digital currency, the tokenization of everything, how do you see that impacting regular American life, and how soon do you see that impact manifesting so that people actually see it? Because it's very interesting. It sounds like we're talking in the abstract. Last year, we were really talking in the abstract. It seems more real today, given the past 6 months. And I believe, people are going to wake up, they're going to look at their 401k, all of a sudden it is invested in crypto and they didn't even know it. I mean, how do you see this manifesting in just the average American life?
Well, I hope to be wrong on this because I'm really terrified of what could happen. I think the goal is the tokenization of everything. And when I say tokenization, I think a lot of people are thinking about digital currencies. And it's important for people to understand that as well, because I know Trump did his ban on CBDCs, which is central bank digital currencies. But right now, we have now the Genius Act that he signed, the Stable Act, and the Clarity Act that are lined up, ready to go following that, which are really creating the infrastructure for what could be termed Congress-backed digital currencies. And in some ways, I actually think this is even worse than central bank digital currencies. There is actually some regulation on central bank digital currencies. I'm not advocating them at all. I'm glad that we're pushing back on them. However, I am not in favor of this Congress-backed digital currencies that it looks like they're rolling out. But this is a conduit for the tokenization. So I think that they are trying to change over the financial system into a digital system, which means that everything can be surveilled and tracked. And certainly everything can be programmed. And I think that's a really, really key component that a lot of people are not really thinking about what that means when everything is programmed. Every transaction you make, is surveilled, and then you could be debanked. You could have, any transaction you want to make, it could be cut off. Really, they could do almost anything to you through that. I mean, their financial data is one of the most private, I actually think. A lot of people are opposed to taxes because it's thievery, and I would agree with that. However, I think it's also such an invasion. It's a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. It's one of the most personal, private things you could know about a person. It's why they data mine all of these things under the guise of selling you, right? They want to market things that you actually want to see, and that's how they couch it, very Bernaysian. But really, they're data mining to collect as much information on you as possible so that they can control us and program us. And that is very concerning to me, because the tokenization, as Pat just implied, also applies to medical, the AI precision medical. We're seeing it in education with the tech ed. We're seeing it in politics, where they're trying to change things over to, they have different names for it, like, conviction voting, quadratic voting, liquid democracy, but ranked choice voting. But it's all through these technologies, and they, of course, sell it with very nice marketing and platitudes, but this is a surveillance grid, and it would really impact people in their daily lives. I mean, we can just look to China as a model for what that looks like.
Right, controlling our actions and our decision making, and essentially everything, using the collection and the processing of our data. Even Bobby Kennedy Jr. Making a statement that he plans to make wearables great again. He wants every American on a biosurveillance wearable within 4 years. So they're going for everything. In terms of tokenization, it's essentially creating a digital mirror counterpart for every physical thing on the planet. So they can tokenize your mortgage. They can tokenize a blade of grass. They can tokenize a tree. They can tokenize humans. Okay.
Your biometric data, they can tokenize that. Yeah. And when they start implementing the Internet of Nanobio things, and I know that sounds crazy conspiracy, but there's so much literature on it. You can even just look at the UN literature and the AI World Society on it. So it's very real. There are universities all over the world. And I'll just finish with this. RFK did say that he's changing MAHA. MAHA is really about MABA, Make America Biotech Accelerate. So he's actually using the term accelerationism in this MABA. It's kind of
yeah, and essentially when they're able to tokenize, they can monetize and then they can trade on the open market, right? So they can essentially trade. It is the epitome of human slavery. I mean, they could trade on our biometric data, put a value to it, right? And like it's mind-boggling. And they write about these things. Listen, don't shoot the messenger, okay? Like people say that this is crazy. I'm just regurgitating back to you the things that they are writing about, the things that they are talking about in their forums, the things that Yuval Harari and Yarvin are talking about. Again, two sides of the same coin. We're going to go to break in a moment, but either one of you can pipe in here. Where does Trump fit into all of this? Is he a dupe? Is he a puppet? Is he in all of it? Has he been just completely purchased by the tech bros? Is it over? Because we're going to bring Mike Allen back in after the break, and I hope we can have a freewheeling kind of discussion. Joe Allen, Mike Allen, Joe Allen in after the break, and hopefully we can have a freewheeling discussion. But where do you think he plays into this? Because from my perspective, the belief that somehow he is outside of this, it's not his fault, he doesn't know, he's going to come around, he's going to, see the light and stop all of it, I just think I don't know. I mean, that is a lot of hopium right there from my perspective. Courtney, I'll go to you first, and then Patrick will end with you. Then we'll go to break. We'll bring Joe back in, and we'll close out the show. But go ahead.
So I heard you say that you don't think they could have done this under Kamala, and I think that that's accurate. I do think that Kamala, they're going to roll with the technocracy regardless of who's in office. Quite honestly, this plan has been in the works. Certainly, Pat can speak to this. He's been covering it for decades, but well over a century. And I would even say, if you really go to the roots of it, it's millennia. Quite honestly, so these are the plans. They are doing whatever possible to execute these plans, regardless of who is in office. However, I do think that they have, paid off and infiltrated this administration, and they have worked deals with Trump so that he can be the facilitator. And I'm not on the inside. I don't talk to him on a daily basis. My personal opinion is I don't know how much he really understands the ramifications of technocracy. I just don't think that's where his focus is. And he's kind of excited. Oh, we're going to have boom. We're going to have progress, all this kind of stuff, whatever lines they've sold him. But I do think that they are moving much faster under Trump than they possibly could have under the left. So.
Yeah. And we have to remember multiple rug pulls by Donald Trump with his meme coins, the Trump coin, the Melania coin. So he has made billions.
AI action plan.
Yeah. The AI, he's made billions in crypto. Billions in crypto just in the past. Trump himself. And that was reported by, I believe, New York Times. They did a breakdown in his increase in wealth over the past 6 months. It's not just Palantir that's up 65%. Trump is as well. Patrick, I will go to you before we go to break. Your thoughts on that?
Let me say, Trump understands this much. Central bank digital currencies were all about money and payment systems. This new system that's being erected right now, based on cryptocurrencies, is far, far more capable than the old monetary system. That's why Trump has exited out in the first place with his first executive order banning the Fed to implement central bank digital currency. Why is this new system more threatening to us? Because it's an asset-based system, not a debt-based system. Assets can be digitized and monetized. For instance, the land of the United States that the United States owns, I think it's something like over 500 million acres that the U.S. owned as its own property. This can all be digitized and turned into currency. The central bank never saw this coming. They never planned for it. They were talking basically just facilitating transfers of money between international parties, et cetera, et cetera. This is far more pervasive. And I have to say, this new America's AI plan document that just came out last week or 2 weeks ago, it clearly delineates that Trump intends to take this whole system, even AI and the monetary system, to the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And when he talks about taking the AI stack, if you will,
Yep,
that's hardware and everything else, he wants to move this to all of our allies around the world, get them hooked on it as well. They'll be part of the monetary system. Goodbye BRICS. Goodbye any other competitor. China is not even close to us at this point. So you see this master plan. This is what Trump understands. He doesn't have to understand technocracy per se.
Right.
I think he does. I really think he does. But this fits into his plan to basically build empire around the world.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so that's built, though, on human slavery. So it's the export of human slavery. It is total technocracy, total surveillance, complete control. And the United States of America, via Donald Trump, will be exporting this as fast as they can to our allies, pressuring them into submitting to this system. That's astounding. That is an astounding statement, Patrick. Quite a panel today on the Shannon Joy Show. We are going to go to a quick break. Please remember our sponsors. The Shannon Joy Show is completely independent. We are not supported by either political party, either political paradigm. We have no billionaire backers, no super PACs, no political agendas backing the Shannon Joy Show. It's just you and me, your small dollar donations to theshannonjoy.com and our advertisers. So if you're in the market for any of the goods and services, whether it's Native Path Collagen, the services of Colonial Metals Group, the company that I trust for gold and silver purchases, and also to back up my 401k with gold and silver, the satellite phone store, Dom Polano of PCM and Associates, who is my financial advisor, please keep them in mind and patronize them, because that is how we keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show. When we come back, we're going to bring Joe Allen back into the Joy Virtual Studio. He has been waiting and listening to the discourse with Patrick Wood and Courtenay Turner. And we're just going to kind of open it up and see if we can have a free-for-all here in the last 20 to 23 minutes on the Shannon Joy Show. So keep it tuned right here. If you have questions, comments, we might be able to get to them. So throw them up right now in the live chat. It is hopping today on the Shannon Joy Show. Let's see those all caps and we'll see if we can read them. We'll be back in a moment right here on the show.
This is Don Polano with PCM Associates. There's a saying that says a broken clock shows the correct time twice a day. This is not how you want to invest your long-term funds by being right for a short period of time. The Argentina market was the best performing market in 2024, up 117%. Does this make it a good investment today? Natural gas prices are up over 140% in the last 12 months. Are you being told to invest in this now? Thankfully, when practicing asset allocation for a rate of return, you don't need to know the answer. This is because a portion of a diversified portfolio participates in this return along with income issues that provide cash flow and additional growth issues with liquidity. Don't chase returns. Participate in them with proper diversification. Investments are important for what you need for your objectives. We'll find those with you at PCM Associates. Call us at 800-536-1368 or visit PCMPolano.com.
That is Dom Plano, one of my favorite people on the face of the planet. He's been with me. I mean, Dom was the very first sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show 12 years ago. In fact, I'm having drinks with him tonight after the show. He's such an amazing person, an amazing financial advisor, and he's opened up his practice to this audience. So if you want a financial advisor that shares your values, you want to go to pcmplano.com, pcmplano.com. Dom will take amazing care of you. Speaking of investments and hedging and analog versus digital, you guys want to check out Colonial Metals Group, another great sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show. I trust Colonial Metals Group for all of my physical gold and silver purchases, but also to back up my retirement with physical gold and silver. It's the only company that I trust. They love this audience. What I love about Colonial Metals Group, they don't do fear selling. They don't do pressure selling. They meet you right where you are, answer all your questions, and show you all of your options, whether it's backing up your retirement with physical gold and silver or purchasing physical gold and silver to keep in the safety deposit box or in your safe. We know as they push us into digital, one of the ways to resist is to go analog. And as you guys know, I'm a little bit of everything. I have real estate, I have cash, I definitely have physical gold and silver, and I also have my investments. I feel, if I sprinkle it all around, then, whatever happens will be okay. But that metals strategy is a critical component. And if you haven't thought about that, now is the time, because as we've discussed today on the show, they're moving very quickly with these things. So now is a great time to have that conversation. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That's colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Right now, $7,500 in free silver for the Joy audience, but you have to use that URL. So colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. All right, let's bring in the whole panel. Joe, thank you so much for sitting through that last segment. Patrick and Courtney, you guys are amazing. Again, this is the first time I've ever had 4 guests, and actually the first time I've ever done a free-for-all. So I have no idea how this is going to go. But I think that, let's start with you, Joe. You've heard the reports and the information from Courtney and Patrick. What do you make of their perspective, really like laying a lot of this at the feet of the Trump administration and something that he's not going to stop doing? I mean, this, unless we resist against him and this administration, my perspective, I think they agree, is that he's going to be pedal to the metal. Your thoughts on that?
Trump's a very unpredictable character. I'll just leave it at that. Courtney and Patrick I've known for years now, and they know me to be a very agreeable person. I'm in no way confrontational or argumentative. So I think in the spirit of agreeableness, the first thing I want to look at is just what is it we're trying to protect from these various technological predations. And I think we're all in agreement that first and foremost, it is the kind of organic community, the organic human being, the organic mind, but also on a much deeper level, the spiritual heritage of what we are as human beings, as Americans, and people across the world. Those two elements, they don't jive with everybody, but those two elements of continuity of culture, continuity of spiritual tradition, and just continuity of the body, we're trying to protect against that. As far as who is doing this, right, and how it's being done, the one thing that I want to distinguish my perspective from both Patrick's and Courtney's, at least to some degree, is there is a very broad spectrum of interests and competing interests involved in all of this. Just the mainline example, the most powerful tech corporations on earth, beginning with Google, working towards artificial general intelligence that really began in earnest in the early 2010s. And OpenAI was founded by Altman and Musk in order to try to get in on that race and compete against what they felt was coming from Google's DeepMind, which was artificial general and then self-improving to the point of artificial superintelligence. They set about that task. You then had a spinoff from there with Dario Amodei leaving OpenAI to found Anthropic, which has a very different mission. Yes, they're all moving towards AGI, but the way in which they're doing it and the purpose for which they're doing it quite different. And then you have the development of XAI. And Musk's vision on this is quite distinct from Altman's, quite distinct from Amadeus, quite distinct from Dennis Hassabis at Google. But with all those differences, what's in common across it is this love of technology and this belief that technology will solve human problems. Technology will solve spiritual problems. And a lot of the solutions offered to the problem of technology itself, of these megacorps taking over, come from people like Jim Root at, with his Plan B idea, or people like Curtis Yarvin and Balaji Srinivasan with the network state, or Yarvin's vision of the monarchy over the kind of bureaucratic blob. I don't agree with any of those, right? I don't agree with the central corporations. I don't agree with the ideas of Jim Root, at least not all of them, and not the ideas of Yarvin, at least not all of them. But what they represent are competing factions. I don't think there is one single master beyond the metaphysical level that is pulling all these strings. And it would be like saying that because we have extreme right-wing Luddites and we have extreme left-wing Luddites, that there's some central shady cabal pulling the strings of the Luddite impulse. I simply don't see that. I think that one of the big problems and also the hopes that we have, a problem is if you knock out one, another takes his place. One of the hopes you have, though, is that because the system is in constant flux, because the system is being driven by all these competing agendas, that it's possible to exert your agenda on that system or to escape it and create your own kind of sub-civilization.
So I hear what you're saying, but I think the issue here, like right now, we have a Trump administration. We have a front-facing administration that is doing things, very clear things. There is discernible policy outcomes. We have executive orders. We have emergency declarations. We have pieces of legislation. And so to kind of, delve into like this higher discussion about the other side, I mean, we have someone to oppose right now. Patrick, let's have your response and then we can go to Courtenay.
A lot of people, well, people in the world generally, they talk about evolution, and evolution is basically just happenstance, just things colliding into each other, and somehow we all got here, and here we are. Well, I don't believe in the non-directed evolution of history. And I understand. I know a lot of people probably will raise an eyebrow at this, but since at least 1973, with the formation of the Trilateral Commission, we've experienced directed evolution, if you will, in the sense that this whole thing has crept up on us to today, and you can see their hand guiding things along the way to achieve the purposes that we see today. It's no mistake that these technologies were invented. Yes, they were, and that certainly was that could have taken another turn. But the technologies did get invented. They've served the purpose of the masters who were controlling it, and at this point, AI has morphed into this all-powerful weapon for them to achieve their purposes. I said from the beginning, with when the Trilateral Commission was formed in 1973, I said from the beginning, it was all about resources, from the get-go. They wanted to take all the resources of the world away from you and me and the nation states as well, put them in a global common trust and be managed by them. This is the same plan today. If we look at the digitization of all assets in the world, what do you think that's all about? Well, if you look back, do you see the whole thing was laid out in the first place? They didn't have the ability to do that back in 1973, but they do now. So I see this as kind of the culmination of that guiding hand, if you will. And it's still there. It's still guiding things even at this point.
And so let's go to Courtenay, because that is actually one of your areas of expertise is the dialectic, the Hegelian dialectic, the left, right, like using. So Trump has never been the savior. He has never been about freedom. He's never been about making America great again. He is a construct. He is a part of an elaborate kabuki theater. He plays his role and really marches us. This is why I liken him to a Trojan horse. But essentially, it is the series of false choices, the lesser of two evil, over and over and over until you just get plain evil is kind of the way that I see it. I know you would disagree with that, Joe, but Courtenay, I think you would say this is how they're implementing this. You know, what is your opinion, or how do you see that playing out? And what is the evidence or the proof that you have from your perspective that is indeed what we're witnessing today?
I think that is indeed what we're witnessing today. And I think, what Joe is alluding to is that, this idea that there's some like mysterious cabal that's pulling all the strings, and he doesn't agree with that. I would say I'm kind of in the middle on that. Honestly, I don't know that it matters, because as you pointed out, Shannon, that right now we have things that are tangible that we have to face and we have to do something about. I think it's incumbent upon us, we the people of the United States of America, particularly, but I do believe it's the beacon of the free will for the world. I have a beekeeper analogy, and I think America is kind of the beekeeper. And it's not that there aren't wonderful people and places doing incredible things all over the world, but we have this very unique document, and it was called the Declaration of Independence. And it is the only document in history that codified in writing that we were endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And it enshrines in it a specific worldview. And, we do have the First Amendment. You're entitled to have whatever worldview you want and still be a citizen of the United States, which is beautiful. However, inherent in that is that we do have these rights and that we didn't create them. We are not God. We don't become God. It's not through theurgy, self-apotheosis type of process. We were endowed with them from our Creator. That is our free will. Yeah. So I think that we can quibble about who are the machinations, who are the hands. I do think the Trilateral Commission and their acolytes have a huge hand in all of this. It's very evident, as Pat had laid out very clearly with all the receipts, what their plans were and how they've executed this, and that they play the long game. And so part of the dialectic is the long game, right? This is the, you've got these opposing forces and then they get synthesized. I'll leave out all the philosophical jargon for the purposes of this conversation.
We'll have you on next week, Courtenay. We'll do a deep dive with you next week. We'll bring you in again. Yeah.
Okay. But, people understand the thesis, antithesis, synthesis. But really, in order to do that, it is a long game. I'm in the process of writing a book on Hegelian dialectics. I've got the preview of it up on my Substack. It's called Hegel's Dialectic and Gnostic Jacob's Ladder, a Machinery of Control. And that is how I see it. So the dialectic, it's a spiral, and it churns towards what he called the world geist. This is the radical freedom at the end, but it's freedom as a collective. So all this to say, though, that I do think that Trump is being utilized to execute this plan. And there's a document people can look up. It's called From Mice to Rascals. MICE stands for money, ideology, coercion, and ego. And if you read this, it's on CIA.gov. You'll see very clearly that he fits the mold of what they would use as a change agent. And I very much see that that's what is occurring. I think he has his own interests, his own motives, and that's all implied in the MICE framework. And they're playing on that to get him to facilitate this plan. But yes, they give you the different flavors, right? So you're, for the people who are going to reject what we're seeing as this Yarvin Land type of Sov Corp monarchy CEO dictatorship, right? Because Yarvin said American problem is we need a reboot. We have to get over our fear of the dictator.
He's a darling of the conservative right, by the way, Yarvin, this dictator guy. Like, they love him. Okay. Anyway.
Oh, yes. And so, but I think a lot of people are opposing that right now, so that the perfect vehicle to push you into those who don't like that flavor of technocracy. Oh, we've got this, more soft kind of left operating path of like the game B type of plan. So they give you the different, but ultimately the end goal is the same. The teleos is shared. And one of the things that I'll just wrap with this, so I give you guys time to talk. But when Joe was talking about like they're competing, I think that when you've got powerful figures, they're always competing, right? They want to be the ruler. They want to be the ultimate controller. So of course they're going to compete, and there's always going to be warring factions. And I think a lot of those are genuine because they're competing for power.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
However, they have a shared worldview, and the shared worldview is this scientific dictatorship or scientific socialism, but both roads lead to the technocracy. So.
Yes. I tend to see that's where our opportunity is as the little people. Like, let them rip each other's faces off and wrestle each other off a cliff. And then maybe we might have a shot as humans. Joe, I would love for you to respond to Courtney's analysis, and Patrick, your thoughts.
I know we're short on time, so I'm just going to keep this really brief. I don't trust the plan, not the benevolent plan, not the malevolent plan. I don't think there is the plan. I don't think there is a shared ideology, really. Certainly not when you go from Jim Rutt. Even Jim Rutt's ideas on people like Desjardins and stuff like that, I mean, he doesn't have any use for that sort of mysticism. So like even within those movements, you have all these disagreements. But the real question, and we don't have time to answer it, but I think that since we began with Trump and his AI action plan, the policy recommendations on how to govern AI, if you look to California, you have 18 laws on the books. I think all of them are quite reasonable. If you look to Texas, they have a new law on the books. It's pretty comprehensive, quite reasonable. If you look at Josh Hawley's proposed AI Accountability and Personal Data Protection Act, I think it's extraordinarily reasonable. But the real question then, if you're going to discard any promise or any intent to drive Trump's administration or the federal government at all, the question then becomes, how does one properly govern artificial intelligence?
Well, I think that's where they want us, Joe Allen. I think they want the federal government and King Trump to govern the new technocracy. And so you just fell for the trap, Joe. Come on, Joe.
Well, they're taking the government out of this process. They're handing it over to the tech companies and removing the federal government from most of this. So,
Yeah. I think that first we need we do need people to wake up. I think we need to call this for what it is, call Trump out, put a stop to everything, halt it right now, slow it down, throw wrenches in the process, peaceful noncompliance, refusal to comply, don't take the digital ID, don't take their digital currencies. And I think that I think that will be the next conversation, because I know that for me, I'm optimistic. I think these guys are powerful. I don't think they're that powerful. I think the tech is good. I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's nearly as scary as people want to say. And they're just using it as a vehicle to gain more power and control. So we cut them off at the power and control. We pick the things about technology that we like as humans, and we reject all of the rest. And we retain our God-given natural rights and our humanity. And I think that that's the discussion we need to have moving forward. But we can't have it if we are, knee deep in hopium that Donald Trump is somehow going to save us from any of this. Like, he's the villain, guys. And I think that's my perspective here. But Joe, you've been a great guest. I loved having you on. I thought the discourse was great. Courtney Turner, great to introduce you to this audience. Patrick, we love you. I mean, you're welcome on the show anytime you want to discuss, because I think this is going to be the topic. I mean, this is going to dominate the headlines, I think, for the next 18 to 24 months. So great discussion to all of you. 15 seconds for each of you guys to close out and pitch your sites or wherever you are, and then we'll wrap it up. Patrick?
I'll say technocracy.news. That's the only place to go for news on technocracy. I have to say, it's technocracy news and trends. I've been a trend forecaster for 25 years at this point.
Amazing.
I don't stress that, but when I say there's a trend underfoot, that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this stuff this way, and so go there, get in the stream, and you'll understand very quickly what technocracy is all about.
Excellent. Joe, go ahead.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you very much for having me on. I think this diversity of viewpoint is really important. I've learned a tremendous amount from Patrick Wood over the years, and I've enjoyed arguing with Courtenay over the years. You can find everything at joebot.xyz and social media slave chain. You can bust me on my smartphone again next time. JoeBotXYZ, JoeBotXYZ.
All right, thanks, Joe. And Courtenay Turner, closing it up.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You can find me at CourtenayTurner.com. I spell my name a little bit differently. It is pronounced Courtenay, but it's spelled like Courtenay. So it's COURTENAYTURNER.com. And that's the best place to find all my podcasts, all of my various platforms and social media. I'm also pretty actively writing on Substack. So you can find me at CourtenayTurner.substack.com.
Excellent, excellent panel. Thank you all. We'll have you all back in again for sure. And thank you for everyone who watched today on the Shannon Joy Show. All of you on the live chat, you are amazing. M. Gareth Hilton, I see you. Ask your guests, how important is it to refuse ever getting a real ID, and states backing out of this? RefuseRealID.org. I agree with you, Garth. This is an important battle. We just had a lot of guests on the show today, so we weren't able to get to all of your comments. But for those of you who did comment, we'll see if we can hit those tomorrow. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you for producing the show. Amazing guests. Please support the show, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. If you like this independent platform, please support us with your monthly contributions. Become an angel investor at theshannonjoy.com. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again.